Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. My name is Jasper Dent. I'm Assistant Manager here at McNally Robinson Booksellers, Saskatoon. This event is being held on Treaty 6 territory. This is the land of the Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Dakota, Nakota, and Lakota, and homeland of the Métis Nation. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Saskatoon launch of The Time of the Great Singing by Elizabeth Phillips, published by Freehand Books. Joining us as guest host tonight is poet Lloyd Ratzlaff. Thank you so much to both Liz and Lloyd for being here this evening and for working with us to make this event happen. Just to note that this event is being live streamed, so there's a web camera up to your right here. We're not filming the audience. However, if your phone rings during the talk, it will live on the webcam and on the internet forever. So probably a good idea to mute or turn that off. If you'd like to buy copies of The Time of the Great Singing, we have some up here on the signing desk where Elizabeth will be after the reading tonight. And then we have some on the desk right by where you first walked in. You're welcome to get your book signed before you purchase it. We just ask that you do remember to stop by the cash desk on your way out, please and thank you. Now, I think many of you are probably familiar with our host this evening, but for those who may not be, Lloyd Ratzlaff is a former minister, counselor, and university lecturer who has authored 3 books of literary nonfiction and edited an anthology of seniors' writings and a children's book. He was a finalist for 3 Saskatchewan Book Awards, won 2 Saskatchewan Writers Guild Literary Nonfiction Awards, and served on the boards of several writing organizations. He was a columnist for Prairie Messenger Catholic Journal through its last 19 years of publication, and taught writing classes for Reed Saskatoon, Western Development Museum, and the University of Saskatchewan Certificate of Art and Design program. His first poetry collection, Walking Upstream, was published last year, and we had the honor of hosting him here at the store. He lives in Saskatoon. Everyone, please give him a very warm welcome.
Thank you, Jasper. Welcome everyone on behalf of Elizabeth Phillips and Freehand Books to this wonderful new book called The Time of Great Singing. I promise you it will help to counter the time of great chaos and killing that we are living with in the outer world. Welcome also to all of the people joining us by live stream. We're in for some good words tonight. I met Liz 25 years ago at Sage Hill Writing, where she was a poetry instructor. I was enrolled in the creative nonfiction class, a Mennonite ex-preacher and late starting writer. Quite intimidated, certainly not by anything that Liz did, but because of her reputation as a poet. Reputation as a poet, no comma there. Oh, yes. Let me run that one by you. Certainly not by anything Liz did, but by her reputation as a poet and editor of Grain magazine. But then very soon, I heard the first of her whole-souled and infectious laughs. And after a few more of them, told her how inspiring that laughter was. In the 25 years since then, I've heard her laugh 100 times. And meanwhile, she's also become my mentor and editor, a fellow dog lover, and as I was too for most of my life, an inveterate walker in nature. One of Emily Dickinson's famous lines was, "If I feel physically as if the top of my head were taken off, I know that is poetry." When I opened Liz's previous book, Torch River, the first line of the first poem ask this question: who's to say this life isn't the eternal life? And right there, the top of my head came off. I don't know if Dickinson meant that poetry lets the staleness out of one's head and fresh air in, but that is precisely what Liz's books do for me. So please sit back, let your head and heart open, and enjoy this new book, The Time of Great Singing, and give a warmest welcome to Liz Phillips.
You're an inimitable. Well done. Well done. You have to laugh first.
Well, welcome everyone. And thank you, Lloyd. I've never been introduced in that way before. So this book has been a long time coming. And I'm very grateful to Freehand Books that it's here and that it's so pretty. I was worried about this reading more than I often am, because I like showing off, you know. Somebody who laughs that loud does like showing off. But I was worried about it because, you know, there's a lot of grief in this book. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to go head on into it. I mean, one of the reasons I can laugh this much is because I was such a loved child. A psychologist told me that once, actually. Kathy, what's her name? She wrote too close to the falls or whatever. Very funny woman herself. Anyway, so I'm just gonna dive in. So I'm gonna give you a little sampling. And thanks to McNally Robinson and Jasper. What would we do without McNally's? So this is a poem about my mother. She developed dementia in her 80s. She went through different phases. In one phase, she was screamingly funny, which I've since read sometimes happens to people as they're going into dementia. I mean, she just made incredible jokes. And I thought for a while, maybe that's where I got it from. It was secretly there, you know. Anyway, but yeah, she always knew who I was, which was a blessing. So this is called Change. She had a row of dimes on her dresser, neatly arranged in silvery piles, and she tried to pay me once with a handful for something I'd bought for who knows how much, let's say $20. And I wouldn't accept them. 33 sailboats, the Queen Act meant to repair any indebtedness, to purchase and to compensate and to reimburse. Coins offered uncertainly, cherished and then surrendered by my mother's immeasurably scrupulous and faltering mind. And then I'm going to read. So my mother died before my father, and his brain was fully functioning to his last breath, thankfully. So this is an imaginary letter I wrote to him about our time afterwards. Just after my mother died, I went to stay with him for his first and last Christmas alone. It's called Tracks. Oh, and there's this word in here, lepus, which is the genus name of hares and jackrabbits. Jackrabbits are hares, but anyway, Tracks. Dear Father, Remember our last holiday, just you and me in the house, everyone else absent or gone or simply far away? I went out snowshoeing in a flurry, blank sky sweeping into blank horizon. And as I plodded on cumbersome metal feet toward the empty-armed aspen, a creature shot out of the willows, a zigzagging, bounding hare, almond-shaped eye like a fissure open to another way of seeing. And I knew this must be my mother, enjoying her new clothes. Why be a ghost when you can be fleet of foot and pure, unknowable shimmer? Like an old man in a tale, you watched from the window and nothing amused you. Not the sudden lepus or your almost falling daughter. I waved and plowed on in the company of the hare's staggered keyholes, her prints, like mine, fleeing the house where you have turned back now, to the book you are reading, in which it is summer, and you have almost cracked the mystery, and the missing have all been found. So another important theme in this book is attention to the natural world, whether in the city or in the woods or wherever, because I think the natural world is right here in McNally Robinson. This is called Whose Woods Are These? Oh, I just wanted to say this comes from Honeymoon Bay, which is in on Vancouver Island. I go there with some writer friends every year. So the wren in here, which you will want to know that the wren in here is a winter wren, not a house wren. Winter wren has a very pretty song. Whose woods are these? You sidle beyond the no trespassing sign. It is the wren with his alternating scold and song that startles you into transgression. Rapid fire chatter, a few breaths, and then a spiraling of watery notes. That pause, the nothing in between, convincing you that beauty lies this way, and danger. The wren exquisitely aware of your too interested gaze as he riffles through leaf mold and deciduous undergrowth, his silence declaring hunger the borderland between sing and threat, where you are both marauders on borrowed ground, surviving on whatever you can get. Now I'm going to read about the storm. A bunch of meditators and canoeists were caught in a very, very big plow wind a few years ago on Anglin Lake in the Spruce River campground. If you've been there now, you'll know that there are a lot fewer trees than there used to be. So I'll read this for Carol. She's crying already. Some people are so easy. Walking out after on the trail, crushed warblers. There is no telling the story of the storm. Everything we say sounds inflated or fabulous. Yes, tents were flattened or flooded. Yes, the silence between birdsong and insect drone, between raven and spruce beetle, the deep hum that we'd been attending to was drowned out. Yes, we chattered, softly at first, then were fairly shouting as the full-headed living jack pines cracked and dropped around us as we huddled in our cage of falling water. Yes, some of us were round-eyed with shock, while others leapt to make an inventory of available rope to check the store of wood under its tarp, to ask who among us had a dry blanket for those shivering. Yes, under our only refuge, an open-air tin roof, it is true that we sang a little, While we held onto the tables, the wind was battering, and after we stowed the notebooks, sun hats, field guides, the maps, the cups and plates, the tobacco, first and last offerings, and while we watched the water pool around us, we told one another that the lake, whipped up now into a froth that obliterated the shoreline, would return to calm again soon, that the canoes that had been lifted and blown into the marsh, like so many differently colored feathers, were safer there, that the rain, what we couldn't quite comprehend as rain, the heavenly down-rushing cataract, would stop. And eventually it did. And that is another story. Afterwards, the time that we are living in now. Because everything changed. We don't go there anymore. Because we don't want to get blown away or have a car was crushed. So it was really dangerous. And now I'm going to read a poem about my father, 37, who was, we had horses. I'm allergic to them, but I rode them anyway. It's called My Shadows Long-Legged. My shadow's long-legged, a slim 6'2", sloping along the road under a battered cap. If I can't ride, I prefer to go by Shank's mare. My shadow passing over gravel loves the sound of that phrase, hears the rustle of oats in a pail, bridle in hand as we saunter toward the horse, her head lowered, grazing new spring grass. The strength in my hands is my shadow's strength. When I grasp the axe handle, my eye leaps to where the stove length wants to split. The axe falling greets its dark twin, and they strike together as the blade cleaves one birch log into two. When sorrow comes, I read and read and read until what I see is not what I feel. After my mother died, he didn't look up from the page, not when I arrived and not when I left. He sat in harsh sun at the kitchen table, his penumbra, the dark and not so dark shape of a man reading, head bowed, over a book flat on the table, like a plate full of words. Once on a long, hot ride, my father's horse lay down in a ditch and he pitched forward in the saddle and disappeared. Under turbid water for one held breath until the Appaloosa remembered his rider and stood. My father laughed and shook the water out of his hat. We didn't turn back. We kept riding even though he was soaking wet. Shadowed all the way by a gelding carrying a man and a girl astride a pony, our pelvic bones cradled behind the pommel, tipping forward and back for 10 miles, 20 in that easy rocking gait. Later, my pony crowded into the buckskin ahead of us, and ears flattened, the buckskin kicked, and the nick in my shin bone has prompted me ever since to look for equanimity after any sudden blow or submersion. Sometimes the ground beneath the shadow is brighter or maybe more vivid. The tangled clover and vetch, the pea flowers, rosy, yellow, purple, finely etched and above in the swelling light, the blurred faces of the man and the child woman, the breathing whether I walk or whether I ride. I am my father's son. I love that last line. I get to be everything. So now a little shift of gears here. I'm going to read something from the Abbey where we have all gone to write quite often, a lot of us writers. This is about a certain priest that some of us know quite well. Carpenter will know who this is. Lots of you will know who this is, the guy who makes honey. It's called From the Sweetness to the Sting. The priest unlocks the honey house and lets you in. Here, he says, is the extractor and the smoker and the ancient tin pot wood stove for winter harvesting. And here's the bridal veil for what purpose you miss, stunned as you are by the miasma of honey long spilled, rancid between the floorboards. And here in this corner to defend his tens of thousands of bees from their enemies are his guns, to cull thieving magpies, crows. In the silence as we turn to go, the humming underlying everything is his sorrow. The worker bees are female, the drones are male. The queen lays all the eggs, 2,000 a day or more. Without her, the hive will die. Today his bees are restless. There's a thunderstorm in the offing, he says, though the sky is a flat, undifferentiated white. Maybe tonight, he sighs, maybe tonight. The bells are tolling now, summoning him to vespers as we walk green paths in stultifying heat, alongside bowing stalks, yarrow and coneflower and water hemlock. He recalls his boyhood self playing by an alkali lake in its bitter wind, the shore a crust of sodium frost, even in August. How blessed he is, he says, in his 67th year to be making honey that tastes of apple blossom and clover. He has had enough of salt. We love that guy, even though he's really complicated. And he shoots crows. I mean, you just want to kill him when he does that. Oh, yes, here, okay. Gee. This is another bird poem. You see a lot from your backyard sometimes. A friend of mine, Mary Walters, once said, how come we don't see birds falling out of the sky all the time? And I can't remember if she knew an answer, or she has a biologist son. I don't know if he answered, but I did see a bird fall out of the sky one morning. And rock dove is another word for pigeon. A better name. The first morning. Every morning is the first morning when she stands on her swath of earth and waits for the clouds to reveal the day. Always new, the variations of cumulus fanned with light, cirrus swept with dawn's blush, and on clear days the arching blue expanding breath. And now here's the flock that passes over every day at this hour as it shifts from night roost to trestle bridge above the river. She's about to turn to go back inside when a bird at the edge of the arrow-like formation drops, spiraling down like a gray fold of cloth. A stone caught where the heart must have stopped, while the others flow on, wings beating as powerfully as ever. She falling with the one as it falls through the canopy of leaves to the breaking ground. Every morning is the last morning. The air cleaved and named, rock dove, rock dove, rock dove. And finally, I'll end with the title poem. A few people have said to me, I didn't know you were into singing. Well, I'm into birdsong. It's in 3 parts. I'll just pause between the parts. This is the time of the great singing. On the upper bank, you hover above ash and maple, dogwood, and flat-faced, palely blooming roses. Suspended there in the swoon of unseasonable heat, You invite the singing to rise toward you, the ascending warble and dry rattle, the insectile sizzle and almost subaudible chipping, an up-close screech and far-off trill. You are lost in the outpouring, your mind a swim, unnavigable. We think we know that birdsong is posturing, bluff declarations of prowess. I name this sky, she is mine, I draw this line. Perhaps, though, the songs merely hint in their phrasings at recent news. She is fine, the nestlings flourish, the rain last night rained wondrously down. Short hours after dawn, new June leaves not yet beginning to darken, and the chorus is a fullness difficult to receive and difficult to decipher, and not just because of the many voices, or that all singing is not beautiful, as every spring is not fruitful, but because there's no pause to consult, no chance to loop back to winter's capacious rest. The best you can do is listen to the raucous abundance, unknowable turbulence, and to accept what the voices in the trees are saying. This is the time of the great singing. Thank you. Lloyd is supposed to come up and interview me. Now, I have to point out that Lloyd's book, Walking Upstream, is nominated for Saskatchewan Book Awards for the 2025 books. And I think we also have Jeanette Lyons here, who is nominated multiply. And Wilfred has a couple of books nominated, Wilfred Burton, right? Is there anybody else who is nominated? Oh, Meredith Hambrock is nominated. Yes. And that's all good for all of us. Come on up, Lloyd.
I think he's going to move the podium.
Yeah, there's one. And there's that one.
So I must tell you though, that when Liz invited me to do this, she said, prepare a few questions, but don't tell me what they are. So this is
Surprised me, I said.
spontaneous for her, but not for me.
Yeah, so if I say anything intelligent, be impressed, but forgive me if I just, don't.
So Liz, this book to me is another lovely.
Is that close enough? Can you guys hear? No, you gotta get a little closer.
Okay. This book is another lovely example of transporting a meditative silence into the world and then speaking in a way that redeems words from the barking. That was Norman.
Says that as a terrier lover.
That was by Norman Brown, but he wasn't talking about dogs. Liz, how did you come to move around in the world, embodying this paralanguage of silence and the capacity to listen that is so apparent in both your writing and your life? Can you let us in on your secrets?
That's quite a question. Well, I love silence. I'm an aficionado of silence. I prefer silence to everything, really, other than birdsong, I suppose. No, birdsong and silence go together. Yeah, I guess I've always had a love of solitude. And I'm a close looker, so maybe that makes me a good listener. I don't know, am I a good listener? I don't know if I'm a good listener. Sometimes I'm just waiting to make a joke.
Well, if you were not a good listener, you wouldn't be a good editor, and you are.
That's maybe true. Well, thank you, Lloyd. That's my answer.
That's okay. I'll just see that we're rolling and then you'll have a chance to respond as well in just in a bit. I think it was Arthur Miller or maybe Robertson Davies who said he distrusted any writer who claimed to have more than a few themes. Are you aware of overarching or undergirding themes in your writing?
I think that's for the readers to discern. I mean, I am, of course, I guess, but you know, you don't tend to look at your own work in that analytical sort of way. I guess all my books show an obsession with the natural world and looking at things closely, and naming things. You know, I've been obsessed with naming grasses. I've been obsessed with clouds. I've been obsessed with what else? Birds. Well, birds. Oh yeah, plants. Like Shelley Sofer and I worked hard on naming all the plants on the entire grounds of the Abbey. 280 of them or something. So
is this primarily because you want to put it into your writing or because you just, are you driven then to name something if you see it, or does it have to?
well, I get interested in something, and I think it's a search often for vocabulary for poems. There are a lot of flight metaphors in this book. But I like when I first thought, well, I could try and find out the names of all the plants around me here. I got so excited because I thought, wow, I'd really know where I was then. I maybe still don't, but it was a good try.
I saw just before we came, Candace Savage was on the news tonight talking about the swale over
Yes.
there, and I think she understands as well this passion for, she would want to name what's there.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Because that's why it's worth saving, yeah. Okay, I have one more question and then meanwhile get yours ready and let them come. Art Slade, I heard him talk once about the difference between a scattershot approach and a targeted approach to writing and selling books. The targeted was like a rifle with 8 bullets, if you can handle that metaphor, but the other is a shotgun that spreads. So is there a particular audience that you write for?
Oh.
Or
I didn't know where you were going with that, Lloyd. I wanted to say, I mean, I work for a publisher, but selling the books is really not my forte. Oh, the audience. Well, you guys.
yeah.
You, Lloyd.
But does it trouble you though when you're writing? Do you have to sort of set that concern aside?
I think you write, first of all, for yourself. Yeah. I mean, I write because I want to know something, and I can only get there by writing. Yeah, I don't think about the audience. I mean, I think about the reader, who is some anonymous somebody who I think, well, is there a reader going to understand this? And so I might step back and say, well, try and see what's actually on the page and find out if somebody else would understand it and objectify it a bit in that way. But that's kind of yeah, a speculative reader.
I read of some poets and other writers who think that it's their duty to challenge the reader. so that you can't just read it and move on. It has to slow you down and stop you. Is that?
Well, I think good poetry should slow you down. Yeah. It's the antidote to everything we suffer from. Why don't more people buy the bloody books? They need them.
Yes. All right, well, I'm gonna take a break for myself there. How about some of you? Dave?
Dave and Dave. Dave and Dave.
I think Dave was
Dave
first.
Carpenter?
Dave was first.
I can get you to swap microphones and take yours to the audience. So
Oh, sure.
questions.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, Dave first and then Dave.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think it should have been Dave first. If I recall, once you sent off your novel, The Afterlife of Birds, you continued to write a fair bit of prose after that. And I'm wondering what it felt like to move back into poetry from having written all that prose.
It was like coming to shore on an island after you've been floundering in a sea for years and years.
Would you like to elaborate on?
Writing the novel was hellish, and writing this book of poems was like coming home. Yeah. There was something I had to do. I think writing the novel was something I made myself do. I don't think I'm really a novelist. I faked it, but it turned out okay, I guess. But I don't think I could write that kind of novel again because I won't live long enough. Does that answer your question, Mr. Carpenter?
I'd like to hear what Dave has to say.
I was gonna ask essentially the same question, except put to you more succinctly.
What's your favorite bird? Oh, my favorite bird. Wow. Oh, that's a hard one. Well, I don't know that I can answer. I don't think I have a favorite bird, but in this book, I think the favorite bird in this book is the black-crowned night heron, which nests at St. Peter's Abbey. Not everyone knows that. That's a hot tip, man.
Just put your hand up if you have a question here. I can bring the mic. Oh, perfect.
You have a beautiful poem about feet in this collection. Love it. And I'm just wondering if you want to maybe talk a little bit about walking and how it relates to writing.
Well, that's an excellent question, Dee. Well, I find walking very contemplative, and because we walk by the river every day, because we're lucky enough to live in a city that has a river where all the land hasn't been sold to people with big fancy houses, you can see a cougar, as Carpenter well knows. He claims to have seen the same cougar, but he put it in a novel. He didn't see it really, and then I saw it, and he said, "No, but I saw it before, but I didn't really see it. I just made it up." You can follow that. Anyway, yeah. So you can, you could go out. You could see deer footprints. You can see weasel tracks. You can see a beaver crossing the ice, coyotes out there. Yeah, so you don't you don't have to be so depressed about being in the city. So and that's where I gather a lot of my inspiration is from disappearing as I look at where I am. Thank you for that question.
Liz, I wanted to know about your sense of arriving at the rhythm that works for what you're trying to do in the poem. And I'm asking the question, having heard Louise have talk recently about how she tries out her lines by walking. And I'm wondering if there's a connection between your answer to the previous question and mine about rhythm.
Well, I mean, sometimes I work on lines while I'm walking, and I'm sure that the rhythm of walking has an effect, but I think, well, I read them aloud and I listen for the sounds, and I try and find the rhythm for a particular poem, for the meaning that poem has to carry. You know, whether it needs a long, languorous line or a shorter, sharper line, or you know, the kinds of words that I need to use, the sounds that I can pick up on. Well, maybe just babbling now, but that's kind of what I do, I think. Yeah. I test them out on my first reader, and when she blanches, I know that something is not working.
So you're making it sing.
I'm making it sing, yeah.
My turn. Oh,
Oh, the other Susan wants to speak.
So you've mentioned St. Peter's Abbey many times. Did you ever go to another retreat anywhere else?
Yeah, I go with a group of women to this Honeymoon Bay Lodge and Retreat Center on Lake Cowichan, on Vancouver Island, once a year. Well, I've done that for several years, and there are poems in here from there about, you know, being in the forest and standing around listening. Yeah, anywhere else? I don't think I've gone anywhere else. I haven't gone to Banff to write. I've just gone to Banff to work, and yeah. St. Pete's is our home, and we have to keep it. We need to find some monks for those guys, new monks. Do we have volunteers from the audience? I think we might be done here.
No.
Oh, Lloyd says we're not
I'm
done.
not done.
Okay, Carol has a question.
Oh, sorry.
Liz, I just wanted to know if you could speak to your relationship with not knowing and how that affects your heart space as you take in what you see.
You're speaking Buddhist to me, aren't you? Well, I'm always writing into not knowing and trying to find my way into knowing something. But I'm usually happy to end up knowing a little bit and letting the mystery continue. I'm not very good at answering the Buddhist questions.
Any further audience questions, or shall I hand this back to Lloyd?
I'll ask one more and then give you one more chance. So think hard if you want to. So Liz, once at Bud's on Broadway, I heard Long John Baldry put on an especially great blues show. And after the third encore and standing ovation, He drew himself up to his full 6'6" height, and in his deep bass voice and impeccable British diction, he nearly thundered at us, "This is what I do." Is there a period in your life or a sudden revelation when you knew that your life's work would be what John V. Hicks called a custodian of language?
You're the most quoting guy I've ever met. The quotingest guy. Yes, I know exactly when. I was 16. It was my birthday. I was in Mrs. Esterbrook's English class. We wrote poetry in the class. We'd never done it before. I looked down at the page and I thought, this is what I'm going to do. That was it.
Like on the road to Damascus, you're thrown off your horse. All right, last chance here. Dave again.
Well, Liz, since you've come back to poetry after a too long vacation from it, can we expect more volumes?
I hope so, yeah. I don't know what I'm gonna do next. That's the terrifying question now, isn't it? What next? But yeah, I haven't figured that out. But definitely I'll write more poetry. Prose, we'll see. Maybe I'll pretend it's prose, but it will really be poetry.
Hello. You
Hey,
say
Noah.
hi. Joke question. How many people do you know that share the same name?
Well, there are a lot of Daves. There are a few Susans. I think there are 3 Susans here tonight, at least. That might be it.
And my real question is, you say you have an affinity for silence, yet you are also a very eloquent speaker. After all, we are all here today. And I wonder, what do you find that you gain from speaking your words versus writing them?
Oh, that's a very nice question. Well, it's a different thing. Reading your own work silently to yourself isn't quite as satisfying as reading it to a group of people who are actually listening. And and the force that comes back from an audience that is actually listening can tell you what you've done right and what you've done wrong, and what is working and what isn't, and well, and like it's like a groovy feeling. Is that a good enough answer? Yeah. It's poetry is meant to be spoken. I mean, it was spoken before it was written, and it's its natural form. So, of course, it means a lot on the page now in many ways, and that's augmented it. But to hear someone read is I think you understand them better. You understand Sylvia Legree better when you hear her read than when you read it on the page. Sorry, Sylvia, I didn't mean to mention you. I can see you getting pissed off.
Last call for audience questions here. Anyone want to jump in there?
Great, thank you very much. And I have a parting question, which you've already partly answered. In your new book, this exquisite interplay between silence and singing. asks another question that takes the top off my head. And it's in the poem Breaking Cover, where you write, "What's the morning's best trick?" And you answer, "A laugh turned inside out." Thank you again for the many laughs tonight. My question though was, and if you think you've addressed it adequately, that's fine, but the question was, from which ancestors did you inherit your wonderful laugh?
I don't think I know them. They might have been dead for centuries. I don't know. My parents could laugh pretty good, but yeah, I think it's my own creature.
Well, it's a gift in any case, wherever it came from. Thank you, everyone. I think we're probably going to finish there.
Yeah.
And please go to the book table, come back with a big stack, and they make wonderful gifts for all occasions. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming, and thank you, Lloyd, for your amazing questions and quotes.